Today on Locked On Rockies, the Rockies' stretch of late proves that the offense needs maturing. This team needs to be able to come up big in clutch situations, and they have unfortunately come up short there. Is this something to be overly concerned about, or should we be giving these players more time?
You are Locked On Rockies, your daily Colorado Rockies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Rock on Rockies fans, welcome into the Locked On Rockies podcast for today, the second day of September in the year 2025. I'm your host of the Locked On Rockies podcast, Paul Holden, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where you can find your team every day. If your team is the Colorado Rockies, guess what? You're in the right spot, because that's what we do around here each and every day, free and streaming on your favorite streaming services and on the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel, where you can be part of the show. You can fire off your Rockies hot takes. You can let me know what's on your mind when it comes to the Colorado Rockies. And if you got something you want to fire off, you got a question, you got a comment, you got thoughts on your mind, let me know on the Locked On Rockies YouTube comment section. Today, we'll be breaking down a little bit of the Cubs series. We'll be breaking down the first game of the Giants series here. Are we in panic mode for Chase Dollander? How are we feeling about the Rockies offense right now? And we need to be giving our props to the one and only Tanner Gordon here, who has had a very, very solid stretch of late. We'll talk about all that and more on today's episode of Locked On Rockies. Before we dive into everything today, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Football season around the corner. It's starting right here. College football is already here. Visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your future bets now. So, Rockies here. They avoid the sweep of the Cubs and unfortunately dropped the first game of the series to the San Francisco Giants. And my big main thing right here is, as we're talking about the Rockies, great to see the Rockies bounce back and get the dub in the finale against the Cubs here. But let's just zoom in a little bit closer here on some stuff. The Rockies in the first game on Friday, 2 for 18 with runners in scoring position against the Cubs. Let's talk about game 2 here with the Rockies with runners in scoring position here when in that 4-3 loss. Let's take a look at the box score here of that as well. They are 0 for 1, so not even much going there with runners in scoring position, despite having the 7 hits in that ball game. And then finally here for the Cubs series, at least the Rockies in the win, the 6-5 win, including the big Mickey Moniak triple, 4 for 9. So think about the difference there in that situation. And then let's zoom in here for the Rockies against the Giants here in this first game. So we're 4 games into this Rockies homestand, and the Rockies here 2 for 8, 2 for 12 with runners in scoring position. The thing here is as easy as it would be to just get frustrated with lack of production. This shows the growth that the Rockies offense needs to go through here. Again, we're talking about the Rockies counting on Jordan Beck to go through with, go through and be a middle of the order guy who gets a couple of hits. Obviously, the best game that Jordan Beck's had in a while, but coming in through a skid here. We're talking about a Rockies offense that needs a lot more maturity from across the board, and we're seeing it in some cases here. But we're also seeing a team that is struggling in some areas. Great to see Brenton Doyle get the 3 hits. Ezekiel Tovar picking up to the core of the order here when you're talking about 3, 4, 5. 4, 5, 6. Looking real solid. Hunter Goodman, unfortunately, another multi-strikeout day. This is what we've seen across the board from the Rockies offense here. 10 strikeout day. Another situation here where the Rockies are striking out a lot. They're not being productive with the runners in scoring position. Going into, I don't think this was the actual final number, but I was listening to the radio broadcast here of the game. The Rockies were 7 for 34 with runners in scoring position this weekend. And that's probably actually got a little impacted as the game went on for the Rockies here. So my point is, this is a team that we can sit here and be frustrated with the lack of results, but this is a team that needs some of these guys as we're going into the final month of the season. We need to start seeing some guys that are able to come up big in the clutch situations. We need to start seeing the Rockies driving in these runners in scoring position. When you're going 7 for 34 there, and one of those base hits being something that didn't even score a runner here against these teams, you're not capitalizing here. You're not fully performing to where you need to be and taking full advantage of your home stadium. When you have these opportunities, you have to be able to capitalize on them. You need to be able to have the productive at bats, and you can't continue to go down this path. Why a huge problem with why the Rockies are striking or have problems with the runners in scoring position are these strikeouts. We're talking about Hunter Goodman, 3 strikeouts, Yanquiel Fernandez, Rolando Arcia, 2 strikeouts there. Brenton Doyle has a strikeout, Karros has a strikeout. And I know the umpiring and the strike zone was a little bit suspect here. But let's just look at some of the common themes here. Surprisingly enough, in the Rockies game there, they only struck out 4 times in that 4-3 loss there in game 2 against the Cubs here. And when you go to the first game here, it's another 10 strikeout game for the Colorado Rockies offense. The Rockies have a massive problem where they can't make the adjustments. What's really frustrating when you're watching or listening to the game, and the Rockies are going up there, especially in this game against the Giants, and like, okay, they keep getting the strikeout on the sweeper. They keep getting the strikeout on the sweeper, and they keep throwing the sweeper, and the Rockies keep swinging and missing at the sweeper. Where is that conversation happening in the dugout? Like where is the conversation about, okay, guys, we need to keep looking at the fact that this guy is throwing sweepers, and when he's throwing these sweepers in these put away counts, he's not throwing them in the strike zone. You have the ability, you have the technology, you have to start getting these guys prepared. You have to start helping these guys get in a spot where they're going to be confident and comfortable at the dish doing their damage there. But now the Rockies here, we're talking about in their last 4 games, having 10 strikeout days here in both of those games, 7 strikeouts even in the win there with the Rockies. And we're talking about guys that continue to have strikeouts next to their names. There needs to start being, when we're talking about strong finishes to the season, it has to start with the Rockies and their ability to start watching pitches and being able to avoid the strikeouts, to avoid going on these nasty, terrible stretches when it comes in runners in scoring position. They have to start striking out, stop striking out, I should say. As we saw in this game against the Giants, the Rockies get some runners in scoring position and they strike out the side. The Rockies get something going and it's a couple of strikeouts. These strikeouts are such a pain in the side here, and it's such a clear determination that the Rockies, now tied with the Nationals for the youngest team in all of baseball, are going through the growing pains and maturing of what it takes to go up against major league pitchers. When they get in a groove, when they get in these situations where they are confident and they can go after the Rockies pitchers and attack, that is, they're going to keep being successful. So again, I ask, again, I plead, again, I say, what are the Rockies doing to help these guys get prepared in the dugout? Help these guys look in the say, and while you're watching the game, okay, we're seeing that this guy is throwing a bunch of sweepers here. We're seeing that this guy is starting the game off here. He's not throwing a lot of fastballs. He's throwing a lot of off-speed pitches. Guys, we need to go up there prepared. We need to go up there ready. And instead, it's just strikeout, sweeper. He throws it. It's almost as if it's automatic. It just is very frustrating to watch Rockies pitchers not be able to pick up on the stuff that's just dominating them throughout the game. And that needs to come for the Rockies coaching staff to say, hey, we need to get you ready and prepared and ready to go. I know I keep bringing this back to the coaching staff. The Rockies players themselves need to be able to make the adjustments, certainly. But when it's these time and time again for these guys looking like they're outmatched, they're just swinging at these stuffs. They're just swinging at these pitches that are outside of the zone. They're chasing. What is the philosophy there? How are you helping the Rockies be successful there? And mixed with these the bit of the frustration here on the Rockies offense and the fact that they keep chasing pitches is Chase Dollander is continuing to have some question marks about him. This is a guy that has not been able to really come close to figuring out Coors Field, a guy that has not been able to go deep in games here. And are we worried a little bit about where the Rockies are going to go with Chase Dollander? Are we a little bit worried about the development of Chase Dollander? I don't know if I'm ready to start putting it there, but again, it just brings up the question of the Rockies have never been good at making the adjustments. So how are we supposed to be confident in their ability to make the adjustments, to grow, to be better here throughout the last month of the season? I have my hesitations. I have my issues here because I continue to watch the Rockies. The Rockies. What is that? The Rockies. I guess maybe I was going Rockies and rookies and combining them together. I don't know. But the Rockies going, and it's just strikeouts. It's strikeouts. It's issues there. It's a lack of confidence. It's a lack of adjustment. These type of things. It just gets a bit frustrating here. And it's getting a little bit frustrating here with Chase Dollander as well. I don't know how to necessarily fully come to terms with it here, but we have some big question marks heading into the offseason here with Chase Dollander as he continues to go through and work for the Rockies. As we got some tough. There was a tough number here, and hopefully I remember it the right way, but we'll bring it up here and we'll talk about the tough Chase Dollander start here coming up next on today's episode of Locked On Rockies. Before we do that, though, got to tell you about the folks that help make this show possible, and that includes PrizePicks. This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks, the daily fantasy app where making the right call can actually pay off. You and I make decisions every day, but on PrizePicks, being right means cashing in. With football back, PrizePicks is the simplest and fastest way to get in on the action. Just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player projections, and you can turn your takes into real prizes all in less than 30 seconds. Maybe you're checking out the over on the more on Cortland Sutton receiving yards. Maybe you're going on Bo Nix passing yards. You can even see what's going on with Josh Allen, Saquon Barkley, and you can check these projections. Some of them are pretty crazy, like Saquon Barkley for more or less than 1 rushing touchdown. And the best part, even if your pick misses, PrizePicks invented the flex play, so you can still double your money. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONMLB for $50 in lineups after your first $5 play. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. We're also brought to you by the good folks at FanDuel. The NFL season is almost here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with the can't miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300. Yes, $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. You can use FanDuel because it fits however you like to bet. Player props, building a same-game play, a parlay, or even jumping in live as the action unfolds. It makes every game more exciting, whether you're watching your team or just keeping an eye on your fantasy lineup. It's quick, easy, and the best way to add a little more energy to Sundays. Like I said, maybe the Broncos got a pretty plus matchup here to the first week of the season. Maybe you're feeling positive about the Broncos taking on Tennessee. We'll dive in on the action that FanDuel's got to offer. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com. FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. Folks, thank you so much for making Locked On Rockies your first listen of the day. We're free and streaming on your favorite streaming services and on the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel. And I'm coming to you with a request from the Locked On Podcast Network. We have an important request. Locked On wants to hear from you. We put together a survey to learn more about our listeners and make your favorite podcasts even better. This is your chance to tell us what you like, what you don't, and answer questions about our advertising. Go to lockedonpodcasts.com/survey to get started. Everyone who completes the survey will be entered for a chance to win one of 10 $100 Amazon gift cards. Again, that's lockedonpodcasts.com/survey. You can also find the link in the show notes. Thank you for helping us out. And of course, every time you check out the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel, every time that you like the videos, every time you subscribe to the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel, you're helping the show grow. You're helping us rock and roll here on the Locked On Rockies podcast. And I want to know, folks, I want to hear in the Locked On Rockies YouTube comment section here. I want you to fire off your takes here. I want you to let me know how you're feeling about Chase Dollander's 2025. Are you feeling confident? Are you feeling nervous about the fact that he's 2-12? He's got some of the highest walks per 9. I believe the top 4 walks per 9 in all of baseball here. And he's got a 6.77 ERA and a 1.60 whip there. Over his 41 innings pitched at Coors Field, he's allowed 10 home runs. He's allowed 45 earned runs, 22 walks to 33 strikeouts, and that's in 41 innings pitched here. My buddy Jambron telling me he's on fraud watch already with Chase Dollander, and I don't know if I'm ready to do this here. I don't know if I'm ready to go with a guy that comes from a deep college season into the struggles, into figuring out Coors Field, all of these issues. I don't know if I'm ready to just chalk that up and say this is it's a wash. But I am concerned here about the Rockies' ability to turn things around for Chase Dollander. 5 innings pitched, 5 hits, 6 earned runs, 3 walks, 2 strikeouts, 2 home runs allowed here against the Giants. When we're looking at Chase Dollander here and we're looking at that number here, we're talking about, again, another situation here where Chase Dollander continues to walk people. He continues to have issues. He's hitting people. I'm glad he's going inside. I'm glad we're sitting here and saying that this is a guy that is pumping out here multiple 5+ strikeout games here. Doesn't get it against the Giants here with only the 2 strikeouts here, but going into the start against the Giants here, we're talking about 7 strikeouts, 5 strikeouts, 6 strikeouts, 5 strikeouts in his last 4 starts leading into this one. But it's the control, it's the command, it's the issues at Coors Field. It brings up the massive question here when you're talking about his last starts here. Houston, he goes 6 innings pitched. He allows 3 hits. It's a 1 earned run start. Great. 4 walks. That's a problem. But we're looking now at the starts at Coors Field. When we're talking about his last 4 starts at Coors Field here, 3.2 innings pitched, 4.2 innings pitched, 3.2 innings pitched here. And in this finale here against the Giants here, he does end up pitching there the 5 innings. He hasn't gone very deep into games. He has not had any sort of success here. So as much as there is the concerns maybe with the command and the fact that Chase Dollander continues to put things in very hittable positions for to be punished with, it's the fact that he is struggling mightily with Coors Field. We've already talked about this. So are the Rockies how are the Rockies going to tackle this? Again, you're talking about, okay, Daryl Scott, you're talking about these things. You're talking about leaning on a Rockies a Rockies philosophy that it's said Herman, Antonio, Freeland, hey, these guys have all that stuff, and we're going to talk a little bit about Tanner Gordon, who's had the most success since these guys were rookies. But look at how they've turned out. Look at what's happened to the Rockies starting rotation. Look at to where the Rockies are at as a starting core now. And you're sitting here and saying, okay, the Rockies need to turn things around. The Rockies need to help Chase Dollander adjust and figure things out at Coors Field. Yet they have not been able to do that with the guys that they signed to long-term contracts. My concerns, my warning signs, the things that I get worried about when it comes to the Rockies pitching staff and development of these young arms is I don't think the Rockies have the capability. I don't think the Rockies have the staff right now to be able to get these guys to the next level. I don't think the Rockies, by doubling down, and the Rockies thinking of that by sticking with their coaching staff and their pitching philosophies that they have had, I don't think that's going to be successful for them. They have not been successful in making sure that the careers of Antonio Senzatella, Kyle Freeland, and German Marquez, even with the injuries, I understand that the injuries have been a big thing, but they have not been able to keep these guys consistent. They have not been able to create a starting rotation with these guys, the guys that they have committed to with contracts, with a lot of money, with a lot of time and effort into building and believing in these guys. I have my doubts. I think that Chase Dollander has good stuff. I think Chase Dollander, when you're looking at the fact that he can strike out a lot of guys, when you're looking at the fact that even as we're talking about the issues with Coors Field here, we're talking about a 5 strikeout, a 6 strikeout performance here against the Dodgers in Arizona. Yes, only 2 strikeouts against the White Sox there at the beginning of July, but that there was some time in between there, and only the 2 strikeout game against the Giants here. But we're talking about the guy that still has strikeout potential. We're still talking about a guy that can get these outs. But as they continue to crater and they continue to not be able to figure anything out when it comes to pitching here, especially from the starters, and they continue to spiral and say, okay, well, we've moved on from the hitting coach, we've moved on from the manager, but we're going to keep the pitching coach, even though the Rockies pitching coaching staff has not been able to turn things around for the guys returning from injuries, turn things around before these guys got injured, and turn things around with these pitchers that they have committed to a lot of contract time and a lot of money to. That's my bigger concern here. I don't necessarily think it's a lack of skill thing. However, it is a command thing and it is a confidence thing here. I think Chase Dollander is dealing with maybe some stuff here where you're talking about this is the most struggles that he's had to deal with. This is the most issues, the most challenge to his pitching staff. that he has to that he's faced in his career. But again, I do hesitate and I do worry about the Rockies having the right people in place to help these young guys get to where they need to go. Because the people that they have that they've retained on the staff have just come from losing seasons. And again, I don't think Darryl Scott has done enough to preserve his job. I don't think Darryl Scott has developed enough pitchers. I don't think Darryl Scott has done enough with the Rockies pitching staff to make us sit here and believe that he's going to be the one that's going to help turn these young Rockies pitchers into consistent starters here. And that's not unfair criticism. They signed long-term deals, and I understand health was a factor with these things, but you can't sit here and say that Kyle Freeland and Antonio Senzatella have lived up to the full value of their contracts. Maybe there might be a smaller argument for Kyle Freeland, but when you're looking at the extensions, when you're looking at what the Rockies have committed to Senza, Gomber, Freeland, and Marquez here, and you can sit here and be completely underwhelmed by how these pitchers have turned out and these pitchers have developed into their careers. And for you to, I would not blame you for being hesitant here about the Rockies' ability to turn Chase Dollander into a guy that can handle Coors Field. I don't necessarily sit here and think it's just solely on the player. I think I think the organization has a huge responsibility to say, all right, Chase, you're not going anywhere in the offseason. You're pitching at altitude here the entire offseason and you're figuring out that. And maybe I'm just putting no ball hat on here. Maybe I'm just throwing stuff out here, but the Rockies need to sit here and say, all right, Chase, like this is, if you're a young Rockies pitcher that has struggled at pitching at Coors Field, guess where you're pitching all offseason long? You're moving here to Colorado, you're moving to high altitude, and you're pitching here the whole time, and you're working on finding your arsenal, and you're working on locating your pitches, and you're working on navigating the issues of pitching at altitude. You have to start fully buying into the weirdness and the uniqueness of your situation, and you need to start getting creative here because, again, I'm very worried. I'm very worried about the Rockies' ability to turn things around with their pitching staff and their young arms. They bring up Rolison, and he has a tough start here. They've leaned on bullpen arms, and you can and so maybe when we're sitting here with bullpen arms, you can sit here and say overuse here, but there needs to start being something here where the Rockies really start reevaluating how they handle and approach starting pitching. And I just don't know if they're going to be able to do it. My doubts remain high here, but we're going from the worrisome thing here to a very solid stretch here for our guy Tanner Gordon. Let's talk about him coming up next on today's episode of Locked on Rockies. Before we do that, though, got to tell you about the folks that help make this show possible, and that includes Upside. Hey, Locked On Rockies fans, are you still paying full price for gas? Stop leaving money behind to get real cash back every time you fill up with the free Upside app. Simply download the free Upside app in the Apple Store or Google Play right now and start earning cash at the pump today. Use the limited time promo code SEASON and get an extra 25 cents back per gallon on your first fill up. You can make up to $300 a year just from buying the gas you already need. At first, you'll think it's too good to be true, but it's totally legit. Real people are getting paid just to make their daily commutes, and you can too. Plus, you can cash out anytime to your bank account, PayPal, or an e-gift card from Amazon and other brands. Don't let this offer drive on by. Download the free Upside app now and use the limited time promo code SEASON for a limited time 25 cent per gallon bonus. That's promo code SEASON. Offers vary by user and location. Go to upside.com. That's upside.com for terms and conditions. Locked On Rockies here, putting a bow on things for your Tuesday episode of the Locked On Rockies podcast. As much as we've been worried about Chase Dollander and some of the starts that we've seen, especially at Coors Field here, we're talking about Tanner Gordon here now, who has put together a very solid stretch here. Now, the opponent batting average still sitting kind of high. The whip still sitting in a situation here as you go through the full month of August, including that tough start against Toronto here. But now the Rockies in the last 4 starts here for Tanner Gordon have gone at least 5 innings, including 3 in a row that have gone at least 6 innings. He has allowed 2 home runs in those last starts, but when you're looking at earned runs allowed here in those starts, the most has been 3. and the fact that he's been going out there and picking up a couple of strikeouts, including 9 against the Cubs there in that finale. Looking pretty darn good there as they continues. I believe the Rockies now, he was on the hook there for the first time since Kyle Freeland to have 4 straight wins in a row. The Rockies were sitting in good positions there with Tanner Gordon as he continues to build confidence. So you got to figure out what's going on there. You got to be able to see as much as we're talking about making the adjustments and working with Chase Dollander there, but it's also about recreating this. What's working for Tanner Gordon? How can you apply that to other pitchers here? The thing that I'm also encouraged here with Tanner Gordon is we're talking about 9 strikeouts, 5 strikeouts here in his last 2 appearances. The strikeouts are going to be so critical for the Colorado Rockies, man. As this team is going to go through the fact that they're sitting there and saying, okay, our complete confidence in pitch to contact, our philosophy of that, it was flawed. You can't continue to allow people to hit the ball at Coors Field. You can't keep giving them those opportunities. So to see the fact that Gordon and Dollander are able to get strikeouts is very, very, very encouraging here for the club. And again, for the Rockies to be sitting in situations where you're talking about them needing a starter to get through the 6th, get them deeper into ball games, take some relief away from the opposition here, especially when you're talking about here. This is Gordon bouncing back after 2 starts here where he goes 6 and basically 6 2/3, about that, where he allows 23 hits in that time, 17 earned runs, and only 7 strikeouts in that time. Now going on a stretch, putting the Rockies in a position to win each and every single one of his last 5 starts now, and getting these strikeouts here, taking down those earned runs, still allowing at least an earned run in the entire month of August, but cutting that down from a tremendous amount of worry there into some reasonable starts, into some quality starts, into positions where the Rockies were able to win some ball games here against some good clubs here. Where, the Blue Jays thumping Gordon here, but for him to go out there and go 5 against the Arizona Diamondbacks, go 6 against the Dodgers, go 6 against the Astros, go 6 against the Cubs. These are all playoff caliber teams, and good for Tanner Gordon here to be able to bounce back and show some stuff off at Coors Field as well. On August 15th, the ERA, and again, I know it's going to sound high, and I know it's going to be a tough pill to swallow, but the ERA is 7.98 on August 15th. After the Cubs start, 6.07. We're talking about an almost 2-point drop in ERA right there. And we're talking about, strikeouts piling up, going from 2 strikeouts to 3 strikeouts to 5 strikeouts to 9 strikeouts. And we're talking about striking people out at Coors Field as well. All positive signs and good things as we continue to go through, as we are now officially in the final month of the season. It has to just be about these small moments. It has to be the fact that the Rockies need to start seeing some stuff. We need to see Chase Dollander finish the year strong. We need to see Tanner Gordon continue this throughout the rest of the season. We need to see Rolison and now Drew Romo, who just got called up, have solid starts here and be impacts there. We need to start seeing the young Rockies be able to finish strong here and not run out of energy. And I think some of that is starting to show here. We're seeing some guys, the youngest, the tied for youngest Rockies or roster in baseball, might be running out of steam a little bit here, and they need to be able to finish strong and see some things here that are going to be successful for them. The Rockies here in game number 2 going up against Logan Webb, 12-9 with a 3.16 ERA and a 1.21 whip over 173 innings pitched. He's allowed 173 hits, 187 strikeouts. So we know that the Rockies striking out a lot in that first game. It won't be too surprising if we see another big strikeout here performance, especially as the Giants look to continue to dominate the Colorado Rockies as they have. The Rockies now 1 loss away from that 3rd straight 100-loss season. They need to win 3 to get to that 42 wins to avoid the history of being the worst team in baseball. 37 walks for Webb to 13 home runs. Kyle Freeland on the bump, 3-13 record, a 5.28 ERA and a whip of 1.51. 131 innings pitched, 164 hits, 97 strikeouts. Massive difference right there, folks. We can see the difference in strikeouts and the difference of abilities of putting people away of the 2 starters there. 34 walks, 20 home runs. Kyle's got to be sharp. It's going to start right there, like we've said time and time again there. folks. The Rockies need their veteran players, whether it be Kyle Freeland, whether it be Arcia. Anytime the Rockies have a starter getting this playing time, or a veteran player getting this playing time, they need to step up and they need to show why they're veterans there. All right, folks, that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Rockies. Thank you so much for making us your first listen of the day. Hey, by the way, before we go, it's another big moment on Locked On. College football fans, Locked On and Fire TV present College Football Kickoff, your ultimate college football weekly preview. Drake Toll of Locked On Big 12 leads the conversation. A longtime two-time AP Coach of the Year, Gary Patterson, former college star Jesse Holley, and Locked On's local experts. A college football preview only on Locked On can do. Catch College Football Kickoff every Thursday throughout the season on Fire TV. And of course, if you need a second listen of the day, go check out Locked On MLB and Locked On MLB Game Night. And we got you covered with Locked On Broncos, Avalanche, Nuggets, and Buffs for all your Colorado sports coverage here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Until next time, I'm Paul Holden saying so long from the Locked On Rockies podcast.